Um, the good news is that actually there's quite a lot happening, and the bad news is that there's a hell of a lot more that still needs to be done. I just want to give you a few examples, vignettes, instances of what has been going on in the world of TEEB. As you know, the early endorsement of TEEB by governments of both India and Brazil was something of a pleasant surprise for us, and I think the fact that Isabel Teixeira actually wrote to the forward for the TEEB, D1 as we call it, the TEEB for policymakers, was again a pleasant surprise. And things are moving, but perhaps slower than we thought in both India and Brazil. But at the same time, in Brazil, the TEEB for business side has gone straight ahead. They prepared their initial report, and that was published and launched in Rio to an audience which consisted pretty much half the GDP of Brazil, because that room was completely chock-a-block with all the businesses. So clearly there is a degree of endorsement of the TEEB for business by business. Josh, congratulations to you and your team, and you should be very happy and proud. And this is going on, and we are hoping that some of the other initiatives that we are putting together under the TEEB Business Coalition, which I shall speak about in a minute, trying to figure out how to get the size up, have also been taken root. But coming back to the country side, country implementations of TEEB, some work is being done to in fact prepare a country template, and I'm sure colleagues here from Geneva will comment on that in a moment. But the reason for the need for the template is there are so many demands at the country level for implementing TEEB that we just felt it was going to become a potential problem defining even what is and is not a country TEEB, because everyone will be doing their own thing and crafting their own designs, which to an extent is fine, but if beyond a certain level that becomes a risk in terms of quality and completeness, and I think we don't want to face that. In the TEEB community, I think we are all very clear that we created a brand, not consciously, but maybe unconsciously created a brand which stands for quality and inclusion and change and commitment to that change. And I think that's the good thing about this community, that we are all in our respective private lives and employments all still committed to the idea and its implementation. So to keep that quality alive, we need to have the standards, and those standards need to be put together very quickly, in my opinion, by the team in Geneva. I hope you're listening to guys, and circulated, because otherwise we will have different answers for what is a sensible framework for valuation of ecosystem services and biodiversity values within the context of geographical boundaries and political boundaries. So we have already seen launches of the TEEB country level in Norway, in Germany, and of course the UK had their national ecosystem assessment, which is kind of a TEEB study, and does many of the same things that we would expect. And we are also seeing interest from Georgia and Mexico and Indonesia and many countries who are keen to move forward. And we are hopeful that this will be supported by the United Nations Environment Programme and the Office in Geneva, and also by many of the institutional funders, including GIZ. I'm delighted that you are here and that you are committed to make this happen. Thank you very much indeed, and to your colleagues. And I'm also delighted that we are at a point where the Chinese government has come out and said that they are keen to launch TEEB. And last time when all of you were there from Germany, from the Ministry, and from GIZ, I thought the endorsement that TEEB got in that gathering that we had in Beijing was quite remarkable, because the who's who of Chinese ecological and environmental economics was in that room, and so was the government, and so were many of us from the UN and from the TEEB community. And I think the point that was communicated to us both privately and publicly is that they understand the process. They have been experimenting, and they have good examples of TEEB-like activity as a payments for ecosystem services examples and evaluation examples from various parts of China. But what they're concerned about is this one-off approach is incomplete and should not be the way forward. They need a national process supported by national statistics and supported by the MEP, the Ministry of Environmental Protection, and organized and executed in much the same style, that systematic style that they saw having been done at the international or the global TEEB level. and they sought our help to organize that, and of course we committed that would happen. So it's great that now China is on board as well. To me, that is. I'll say this: I think that TEEB has been also misunderstood, and therefore there's not as much progress in Latin America as I would like to see. And a lot of that misunderstanding stems from possibly the fact that we never really converted, even though the TEEB reports that summaries are available in Spanish, we never really converted in our thinking and our messaging to Spanish. So even though we have texts available, I don't think they're being read, and I don't think our key messages are being translated in a manner that communicates. And that's the fault I have to confess. It's my fault. I should have sorted that study that I needed to do that, and I apologize that I did not. But the time is not too late. I think we should convert our key messages, and I seek your help, especially those of you who are native Spanish speakers. I mean, what is Spanish for GDP of the poor? What is Spanish for the phrase? What is Spanish for you cannot manage what you do not measure? And what is Spanish for valuation as a human institution? I mean, these are things which I've said probably 1,000 times over the last few years, but in English, unfortunately, because my language skills are limited. But I think we need to convert these key messages, which do communicate, into respective languages, and I seek your help. I can't do this, you can do this. So I think with these points, and of course some of the misunderstanding on the Bolivian side of the other nations is that they don't distinguish linguistically between valuation and pricing. It works the other way. I mean, someone who is a native Spanish speaker told me that there are like 4 or 5 or 6 words for the word love in Spanish. And the love for a husband for a wife is a different word, and that for a family member for another is a different word, and for a friend with another friend is a different word. And in English it's always one word, right? So it's in the same way to flip it around. We have in English differences and all understanding between what is valuation and what is pricing, but a family means common Spanish that is just valor or whatever it is. And you end up confusing people because you're using a word which is translating in your head, but not in their heads. And I'm afraid that simple things like that we should have sorted, but we didn't. So now time to correct our mistakes. We've done the right thing, we've said the right things, but in the wrong language, as far as I'm concerned. Now, let me come to the business side and explain in a few moments what is happening on the business side is a whole series of changes. I'm now working very focused, in a very focused way, in a program called Cooperation 2020 that I started for one very simple reason, that after 3 years of working on a green economy initiative and simultaneously with TEEB, I came to understand that if we do not create the right incentives for the corporation to change behavior, we can just forget about the green economy. Right? It's all very well standing on the pulpit or doing a fantastic macro model like E21 and finding great proof at a sector level saying green economy is best, economically better than another economy, and each sector will individually perform better in the short and long term, etc., etc. Great to have those economic proofs, but that proof will result in no change in action because we are not making the changes at the ground where it matters. The macroeconomy is the sum of the parts are corporations. The valuation at the corporation level, whether it's the form of profits or salaries paid out or bank interest paid or whatever it is basically going to add up to GDP. And today, the corporations account for 60% of GDP and 70% of employment. So if we don't address that basic dependency of one on the other, we are not going to get a green economy. There's no point having a system where the corporation, as the world's most important agent of the economy, and in my opinion, the world's most important institution of our times, is working in this direction, and all of us are pointing in that direction, expecting it to change. How can that change? Some of these things add up to that. We do not have a change in the macro level unless we execute policy changes, micro policy changes, which impact the corporation at the micro level. And that's become my key focus these days, because it is, in a sense, the effect that we did not pay enough attention to in the days when we were crafting the Green Economy report, which came out as towards the Green Economy. Once again, I apologize. I'm not God. I'm not very good at thinking. I'm easy to do. But now that we found that mistake, let's correct it and let's start focusing at the micro level what needs to change. And those changes are basically the distillation of the thinking there is that there are 4 key things that you need to do. You need to manage demand, you need to manage production, you need to manage resources, and you need to manage knowledge and awareness. The biggest driver of demand, which is, if you like, a corporation's capacity is basically its ability to market and advertise, so that needs to be addressed, and there's too much going wrong in that space. The biggest multiplier that converts production and puts it in the hands of the MNCs is their willingness, ability, and total availability of finance and leverage, unlimited, irrespective of whether they are small, medium, or too big to fail. Especially if they're too big to fail, the fact is that when they take leverage, they add risk, but when things go wrong, they socialize the losses. So effectively, profits are theirs, losses are ours. Our taxes pay for the costs of the rescues of banks, General Motors, AIG, and PWCN. I just find it incredible that an institution like a bank, which is too big to fail, kind of accept that, yeah, things could go wrong, but why is a hedge fund too big to fail? I mean, yeah, because you're laughing, so you know what I'm talking about. So this is the thing. So I'm focusing on finance and what can be done there in terms of limiting leverage and creating capital requirements for very large corporations. Resource taxation has to happen. We are constantly taxing the goods. It's a good thing to make profits and add value at corporate level. It's a good thing to do work and earn salaries. That's what gets taxed. We don't tax land, it's resource extraction and use. So we need to focus on that. But fourth and most important, in my opinion, is this whole issue of disclosure of externalities. And the good thing is that this fourth plank of change has actually moved because he was deeply involved in bringing it to people's awareness at the policy level, at the business level, at every level, and even the journalist level. And I think that's been done. That was a good job done. And once again, it was excellent that partners of TEEB, of the community, including GRI, IRC, the World Business Council, the Council for Sustainability, E4E, and so many others, and I haven't named, apologize, but there are so many partners who did so well broadcasting that and being part of the advocacy, which you see here. And then we were lucky, and partly by design, because we were focusing on chartered accountants who are the implementers of this change. We were lucky that the Institute of Chartered Accountants took on the role in the UK to be the institution champion, and they have done a tremendous job putting things together and opening the office in Singapore, and now it's being funded by the UK, Singapore government, and also by the Intel Foundation, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. So this line of change is moving nicely, and I want to describe what is happening in terms of its governance structure. We have incorporated an entity in Singapore just literally over the last few days, and it has a very large institutional, largely advisory board. Corporations will be members, and corporations will be allowed to elect five board members, but the main members are actually people like you, people who are working for WCSD, GRI, WWF, Conservation International, IUCN, IRC, Global Initiatives, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants themselves. So these are permanent board seats. Now there are some people like the CBD and United Nations Environment Program who have been part of this process from the beginning. And indeed, His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales and his Accounting for Sustainability Program. But it's difficult for them to become owners of shares in a company. So we've given them board seats, but on the basis that they are permanent observers, and yet recognizing that they have been involved in literally the foundations of TEEB business. And finally, there are random people like myself and one Singaporean member of parliament who helped us create this, because we do need some local presence. And Sanjeev Sanyal, who's an economist who was part of the green economy work, and he's based in Singapore. He's basically the CEO's advisor in Singapore for Deutsche Bank. So this is what the board is now. This board is advised by eminent people who are not board members as a legal entity, but they're also people whom you know, some of whom are TEEB advisory board members. There's Howard Mulder, Michael Itza, Jürgen Seitz, and we also have Peter Becker from the World Business Council. And I'm delighted that we have such a strong group of leaders and thinkers and influencers who are going to help us take the business side forward in TEEB. So that's pretty much a summary from my side in terms of what's happening at the country level and business level. I also mentioned that research isn't over yet, and especially I would say that in TEEB we were, because of the time stress and the short time we had to deliver our reports, we focused on the available knowledge and available research, which was largely in land-based findings. We did not do enough on the sea. And now a program has been launched, which is basically TEEB for the oceans, And that will address some of the consumers' knowledge gaps and some of the lack of economic analysis of legal services. And some of these are cutting edge and difficult. I mean, the ability of the oceans to sequester carbon and exactly how that happens and the various ways that happens and the value of that is not straightforward. It's not really researched much. So to an extent, we couldn't have done very much 2 years ago. The state of knowledge was where it was. But it's moving on, and I think we are contributing towards that. And also there will be research on some of the interactions of TEEB with agriculture, TEEB with desertification. And you've already seen some very good work done by Patrick and his colleagues and others contributed towards TEEB for water and wetlands. So this knowledge side of TEEB, if you like, the extension of TEEB 0 is also continuing very well. So all in all, I think I'm very pleased that we have seen progress in implementation, we have seen traction, but I'm also conscious that we need to be alert and sensitive to real issues which are there in Latin America, because of all kinds of reasons, but the issues are there and we need to address them openly. And I'm conscious that this needs more money and more research, and I'm personally committed to do whatever I can, even though I mainly wear the hat of my micro policy reform agenda these days, but I'm personally committed to TEEB for life. I'm telling you that up front. And at a TEEB for business level, I will be chairing the board for, I told them, for a year after you incorporate, but within that time I want you to find a successor that should remain on the board of TEEB for business, but not be chairing it forever, because that's not my style. So once again, thank you very much, all of you, three friends and collaborators and parts of this wonderful TEEB family that we all created together. Thank you very much for being here today, and I now would like to invite the panelists to the stage. Who are the panelists on this one? Anyway, I believe you're on the panel, so please take a seat here. Rosemary, I believe you're on the panel, please take a seat here. Who else is on the panel? Can you just have this? You're on the panel, so please come and take a seat. Thanks very much, Denise. Now we will have the panel session. Yes. So we take over and sequence it, because I can't seem to pull out the sequence list out here. And just please inform the audience who all will be speaking and in what sequence. I can't seem to get it on my system here.
On the left side, we have the DP, perhaps the organization is for East Asia, and the economic partner with the East Asian economic groups that take activities on economic approaches in East Asia, right?
Bom, a Brookhaven and working with the Center for Biodiversity who is coordinating in Thailand, implementing the project for Thailand now.
It's the best project which is looking at implementing strategies based on economic analysis in Thailand. And we have a lot of work who is professor at University and is chairing also leading the research partnership. Then Deso, who is the head of the Federal Agency of Nature Conservation in Germany. Tamara,
My name is Tamaka Alite. I represent the Ministry of Environment Protection of Georgia, and I will briefly review the TEEB process in my country, what's happening right now on the scope phase of TEEB project.
Rosemary Correa from Conservation International, and she will give an overview on assessments and databases as well. So perhaps if we start perhaps with TEEB activities in Europe, with Beate Jessel could give an overview of TEEB activities.
Well, I can start. I have a brief presentation prepared, so you can probably go to what to jump into. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving an opportunity to briefly introduce TEEB implementation in Europe with special reference to Germany. My agency, where I come from, that is BFN, that is the German abbreviation for the German Federal Agency for Nature Conservation, and we are coordinating the German TEEB study, which is called Nature Capital Germany. And